Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Mo Nawara in the Midwest. And we are looking at a Tuesday night slate here with a lot more to choose from than we had on that Monday night slate for sure. Got some best bets in here for you guys. Want to make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page and can continue to follow along with us as we are bringing you these videos each and every weekday of this MLB regular season. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Plenty of great written content on there all season long for you and heading into the fall as well. Also want you to check out that great odds checker tool we have on there for you on thelines.com. Make sure you are shopping those lines to the best of your ability, getting the best juice back on those bets tonight in the MLB. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to FDPicks.com or DKPicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Going to skip over this game one in that Rockies-Padres series, as they also have a doubleheader later in the nighttime. The Reds and Graham Ashcraft are taking on the Marlins in Miami, and Braxton Garrett minus 140 for the fish there. Jacob deGrom is making his return. It is National Jacob deGrom Day for all of us Mets fans here, as we finally have our lineup intact, our pitching rotation rather. The Mets and deGrom are in Washington for an easy one against the Nationals tonight, should be anyway. Corey Abbott on the mound for the Nats, minus 305 for deGrom in his return. Brewers and Pirates, Corbin Burns on the mound for the Brew Crew, taking on the Pirates in Pittsburgh. Bryce Wilson on the mound for the Pirates, minus 255 for the Brewers. I think we're going to look at that one and probably be eyeing that total at 8 runs as it currently sits. So we'll come back to that one. We've got the Mariners and Logan Gilbert in New York taking on Jameson Taillon and the Yankees, minus 165 for the Yanks at home. The Blue Jays and Kevin Gausman taking on Drew Rasmussen and the Rays in Tampa, minus 140 for the Blue Jays in that division rivalry there. We've got the Diamondbacks and Zach Gallen taking on the Guardians and Tristan McKenzie in Cleveland, minus 135 for Cleveland at home. The Phillies and Nick Nelson taking on the Braves and Spencer Strider in Atlanta, minus 225 for the Bravos there. Matt Manning and the Tigers are in Minnesota taking on Chris Archer, minus 180 for the Twins at home. The Cubs and Keegan Thompson are taking on the Cardinals and Adam Wainwright, minus 175 for the Cards at home. Jordan Lyles and the Orioles taking on the Rangers and Spencer Howard, minus 125 for the Rangers there. Cutter Crawford and the Sox are in Houston taking on Christian Javier and the Astros, minus 195 for Houston at home. The Royals, Brad Keller, taking on the Chicago's Luis Giolito in Chicago. The White Sox, Luis Giolito in Chicago, minus 170 for the Sox there. Cole Irvin and the A's are in Anaheim taking on the Angels and Noah Syndergaard, minus 125 for Thor on the mound at home there. Tyler Anderson and the Doyers taking on the Giants and Alex Wood after winning last night, proving us correct, minus 140 once again for the Dodgers in San Francisco in this one. We are going to be talking about that one here as well. And the Rockies and Jose Urena are taking on Reese Nur and Padres in San Diego, minus 180 for the Pods there in the second game of that doubleheader today. But let's start things off with that Dodgers and Giants game once more. Mo, I know we are looking to eye the Dodgers here again after they did pull out that victory last night. So tell me where you're starting in this pitching matchup here.
Yeah, Dodgers again for me. They did come through last night. Similar talent level in both of these arms. Two lefties that are, I think, right around a 3.5-ish ERA. Alex Wood for the Giants is a little better as far as his strikeout and walk stuff goes. Like his fielding independent numbers are a little better. Tyler Anderson has managed contact a little better. He has an absolutely tremendous exit velocity allowed. I think it's like 85. It doesn't get too much better than that. So yeah, two lefties that I'm pretty confident in. But when it comes to the offenses, I talked about it yesterday. The Giants are really just kind of an injury-wrecked mess. Evan Longoria, Brandon Crawford, Thairo Estrada, and Jock Peterson are all out. I know that they have pretty good numbers overall versus lefties, but I'm not like super confident right now in them just because of all these injuries. I think they're still okay because they have all these platoon bats. But actually on the other side, the Dodgers are up to 5th in offense versus lefties. I was picking on the Dodgers, targeting them when they were facing lefties early in the season, and I guess I picked a good time to stop doing that because they've been hitting lefties pretty hard lately. Another thing with these Giants, a lot of these platoon bats are like mediocre to bad in the field, and the defense has been a really big problem for the Giants. So that's where I see a really big edge for the Dodgers is defense and bullpen. So as long as Tyler Anderson rather doesn't get like completely wrecked, I like their chances if it's at least a close game going to the bullpens. So this actually could be a good live betting game too if like Giants are up 1 or 2 in like the 5th or 6th inning. I like the Dodgers' chances still a little better than the market will, I think, in that case.
Yeah, that adds up, and I think that's going to be something we continue to see in terms of the Dodgers having success against that pitching staff for the Giants, even though it's been their calling card this season with that lack of offense. This is a situation where a lot of these, where you're going to see, I think, a ton of breaking balls. You're going to see a lot of curve balls from Alex Wood, right? This is what he's going to be throwing, some of that junk, and the Dodgers have plenty of players who are actually hitting well above the 50th percentile against breaking balls and curves as well. So I think there's some pretty good odds here for the Dodgers to handle this one. But let's move on to another game that maybe not quite as sexy of a matchup. We're talking about Brewers and Pirates here. Talking about the total, Brewers just made that big trade, getting rid of Josh Hader now on the Padres and that giant payroll. But they still have plenty of players in the waiting in the wings due to the Brew Crew. Plenty of young studs that are coming up for them as well. This, probably already this season at this point as they're making room for them. But we're talking about the total in this one, probably under about 8 runs, as the Corbin Burnes, who has been really, really lights out this season so far, pitching really, really well for his team, is on the mound as well. Definitely the pitching matchup for the Brewers. But tell me why you like the under in this one. While I am kind of eyeing the Brewers on that money line as well myself.
Yeah, we know how good Corbin Burnes is. I don't think I need to introduce most people to how awesome he is. I have him as the best healthy starter in the world. We'll see if that changes. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, he's facing a lineup that's 28th in MLB with an 84 WRC plus, and even furthermore than they're dead last against cutters by like a laughable margin. Like huge gap between them and 29th. And that's Burnes's most deadly pitch. It's his best offering. It's one of his most frequently used pitches. So yeah, I think actually the Pirates had a pretty good game against Burnes earlier this season, but I'm guessing that was just a fluke, and pretty confident Burnes is gonna have his way with these guys, especially it's looking like Brian Hayes might be out. He got hurt and didn't play, I think, in their last game. I think he's just still listed as day-to-day, so we'll see what happens there. But that would hurt them even a little more. He's one of the few like actually good players they have. I think it's actually more interesting to look at the other side of this, where Bryce Wilson is facing the Brewers offense. Bryce Wilson has been a guy I've dumped on a lot. I've faded a lot, but right here and lately, I think he's actually pitching somewhat decently. He kind of switched his fastball usage to a more sinker-heavy approach, and it's been working for him. It's only 4 starts, but 3.27 ERA, 3.8 FIP, and 4.3 xFIP. These are all miles better than his season-long numbers. Also, it's better for this spot. Milwaukee's not that good against sinkers. They're a little below the median there. So I do think Bryce Wilson's pitching a little better than his numbers would tell you. And yeah, there's under 7.5s and under 8s. It's kind of up to you. I took the under 7.5, I think plus 100 or something. So yeah, it's just about your risk tolerance there. So I would just go with whatever you like more. But I opted to go low juice there.
And that's fine. I mean, I will say in his last 2 starts versus the Pirates, just to be clear, Corbin Burnes did have about 15 strikeouts over the 13 innings, only allowed 3 runs in that time. This is a very bad lineup for the Pirates, as you mentioned, in every way, shape, or form, against the pitcher probably pitching the best in the league right now as we speak about him. So let's finish things off with a game. I don't feel like I'm going to bet the Mets minus 305 at home. I'm not going to bet them minus 295. I'm probably not going to bet on them tonight, but I'm definitely going to be watching the return of Jacob deGrom. It's not going to be against the best lineup in the world right now against the Nats, and he's taking on Corey Abbott. But just a reminder that Jacob deGrom has been, if not the best pitcher in the league, one of the 2 or 3 best pitchers in the league for the last 3 or 4 years, throwing numbers out there that have not been seen before, especially once we started picking up some of these stats that he's really dominating in, as we have seen over the last 4 or 5 years. So tell me if there's anything that you could potentially put your money on here. There's an 8.5 total, and then you got minus 294, minus 300, depending on where you find it for the Mets. So is there anything to talk about here more than maybe just how the Mets are now ready to roll and continue to maintain their lead in that NL East? Because I'm down to talk about that as well.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit grim for the Braves. It would have been nice if they made up some ground before deGrom came back. It just seemed like every time the Mets lost, the Braves lost too.
He does.
So it was just like always treading water both ways. Yeah, this is a super super interesting and fun spot. Not necessarily for betting, but it could be. It could be. It looks like a bullpen game on the other side for the Nationals. I usually don't like fading bullpen games. I feel like they're usually like a little bit undervalued by the market. And then obviously, yeah, on the other side, deGrom, best pitcher in the world when he left, he was, like you said, putting up a historic season. He was like front runner for MVP. He was literally 10-1 favorite to win Cy Young when he left last year. The projections still believe in him very, very strongly. They have him at a 2.5 ERA. That's the best you'll find a computer spitting out, basically. The question is just like what the Mets want to do with him usage wise and how they want to bring him along. They did give him several rehab starts. He didn't go more than 4 innings. I think he went 4 in each of his final 2. So when I see that, I'm thinking maybe he goes 5, but I think he's a favorite not to go 5. Given his talent level and like how important he is to their playoff hopes, I gotta believe, and just like the length of this injury layoff, honestly, he's been out for over a year now. I gotta believe that they're gonna bring him along slowly. So it does make me a little bit leery of like laying this sort of juice. I think if you're looking at this game and you really want to like pounce on deGrom against a weak lineup, I would maybe look at the first 5 markets. I know that the Mets have a good pen and the Nationals don't. So, but deGrom is just like so much better than everybody else that I think the value of betting on deGrom is going to be in the first 5 when he just. I mean, this is a guy who often goes 7+, so you're like really comfortable betting full game in most cases. But I don't know if this is one of them, just because I'm curious. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he only threw like 3 innings here.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I would still consider, honestly, an under at 8.5 or so where this currently sits, just because I do think, let's say deGrom goes the 4 or 5. I do see him, giving some gas at the top when he knows he's not going to be pitching that long. I also would love to point out that the Mets still have roughly the 3rd best bullpen in terms of SIERA anyway, in the entire league right now. And so even if he does sort of, go a little bit shorter so that they can conserve him, I still feel good about their ability to shut down the Nats right now, and definitely take a little bit of advantage of Corey Abbott as well. Maybe you like the an away team -1.5 on the run line there, -180. I'm fine with that as well. To be honest with you, I'm fine with betting the Mets, but I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this one tonight. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we are bringing these videos each and every weekday of this MLB regular season. So until we see you next, happy betting.